exciting week for us at Symtrax. We do have a special partnership with several ERPs that I do want to make mention of. We're a certified SAP software partner. We've been an IBM business partner since 1990, and we have gold certified status with Microsoft, as well as silver partner status with Oracle. Our software is compatible with any ERP system, but these are just some special partners of ours. And to give you an idea of the kinds of organizations that we serve, here's a partial list of our customers. These are obviously large corporations with names you'll recognize, but out of our more than 3,000 customers worldwide, we work with many small and mid-sized organizations. I do have these arranged by industry for you, but we're definitely not limited to these industries. Symtrax software is a solution that works for any company that needs reporting enhancing. Now, Complejo Output Management Suite, the subject of today's demonstration, is designed to manage, convert, distribute, and print output files from any ERP system, all from a Windows-based PC or web console with a single sign-on. It offers powerful modules that automate electronic form creation and delivery, plus offer fully featured document workflow creation and archiving capabilities. Today, Jack, our presenter, is going to demonstrate the power of our newest addition to the Complejo suite, and the reason that we're all here, that's the Complejo Print Manager. The new Print Manager provides users with a secure and central web interface, so you can easily configure your printers within your SAP System Landscape or any ERP that utilizes native Windows print drivers. So this is eliminating your worry of finding drivers or printers compatible with your version, your SAP version. Now, each module of the Complejo suite could be purchased or licensed separately, allowing you to pay for only what functions you need. We do offer a 2-week complete trial of our software with full support from our technical representatives, and that is available for download by visiting our website, symtrax.com. Okay, I think that you've heard enough from me. It's time to get to our demonstration, so I'm going to pass you over to Jack, and I encourage you to ask any questions that might come up. Bear with us 1 second here while we get the microphones working.
Sure that you can all see my screen at this point. And as Kate said, the Complejo Print Manager does provide a secure central web interface for configuring printers in SAP. And as some of you know, I'm sure that installing a printer driver in SAP requires a version compatible with the current SAP release, and it's not always as easy as installing a printer as it is on a Windows server. So one thing that you need to know about the Complejo Print Manager is that it's a solution that only requires the Complejo Supervisor piece. It's also, the Complejo Print Manager can be leveraged by other Complejo modules. So the first thing that I want to do is just explain how the Windows printer is easily connected to an SAP LQ, and I can do that in a few simple steps. So the first thing that I want to do is log on to my SAP front end here. And as I do this, again, I would just like to say that we apologize for those technical difficulties, but we'll get through those. So as I said, I'm going to be logging into my SAP front end, and the first thing I want to do is just show a list of the output devices that we currently have. So what I'm going to be using today mainly is this BCXOM output device that's called the Print Manager. So I'm just going to scroll down here. Print Manager BCXOM. As you can see, we've got a short name of PMBX, so you'll see me entering that in today. But like I said, we will be working with the Print Manager BCXOM output device, And what the BCXOM stands for is Business Communication External Output Management. It's an SAP standard protocol available in any SAP R3 or NetWeaver version. And as Kate said, Complejo V5 and Complejo is SAP certified software. So from here, I'm going to open up my Complejo supervisor, which does contain the Complejo Print Manager console as well. So the first thing that I'm going to introduce is the basically how we're going to get from one end to the other, so printing out of our SAP system and into our Print Manager. So this initial setup is that SAP is going to print into this output device that I showed you in the SAP front end. We have a link between the Print Manager and the output device that is run through the supervisor. And then the Complejo Print Manager will link a print queue to an actual printer. So the way that we are going to send the output from SAP to the Print Manager is done in Supervisor here. We're utilizing the connection directly into that output device. And we also have a scenario here in Supervisor that dictates the sending of the information to the Print Manager. So I'm just going to double click on this to show the what is in that scenario. And bear with me here, it looks like it's just loading up. So basically what a scenario is it's a set of commands that the supervisor performs. Essentially you can determine, based on specific spool file requirements and information, how you would want to process a file. So for this scenario, we're just basically sending it to the Print Manager. So the only command that we have would be to print with the Print Manager. If I double click on the parameters, you can see that the Print Manager is directly tied to a print group of AR department, and that's basically how we're going to get it from our BCXOM connector through the supervisor into a print group for AR department. The next thing that I'm going to show you is that you can now go in the supervisor to the Print Manager tab up at the top here. And I will show you that there's 2 print queues within the print group of AR department. Each print queue is pointing to a specific printer. So as you can see, we have our Print Manager. This is part of the console here. We have a Configuration tab, Variables, and Activity tab. And as you can see, in the AR department, we have 2 printers or print queues, and each print queue points to a specific printer. The first one pointing to a Ricoh printer, the second one to a Brother printer. At this point, I'm going to go back into SAP, and I'm going to print a purchase order report. And once I do that, you'll see that it'll go from that Print Manager BCXOM output device through the supervisor and then into the Print Manager. So I'm going to go back here, just enter in a simple transaction code of ME2L just to generate some purchase orders. So I'm going to generate these purchase orders based on a vendor number, and once I enter those, I can click here, and this is going to be the information that I'm going to print to the Print Manager for it to handle from there. So I'm just going to click on Print up here at the top. You can see that this output device was going to print to my JAC-M output device. That's just my personal output device. But as I said, we're going to be working with that Print Manager BCXOM one. That was the short name for it, so I'm just going to print to that. And as I do that, I'm going to show you in Supervisor how we are going to basically start to process that. So we have spool request number 029147 is sent to that output device. So now if I go back into my Supervisor, I can click on the Processes tab, and we will see a new document being processed right here that's basically sending this information from that BCXOM and through to the Print Manager. And once we get out of this process, you can actually double-click the process and see in real time how the document is being processed and at what stage it's at. So as this process continues, it will complete, and at that point we can go into the print manager. It looks like it just completed then. We can go to activity, and we can see that we have one document printing in progress. That's the 29147 that I just talked about. And at this point, it is finished. And it's finished. It's basically, it's been printed to that Ricoh Officio MP printer, which in our case is a virtual printer, but it could very certainly be a physical printer as well. So if I just hit the back button here, we'll see that in SAP, in the actual user interface itself, we have that spool output request 29.147, and it looks as though it completed and successfully printed to that mass print Ricoh printer that we had just discussed. So at this point, there's been no printers were configured in SAP. There were no specific drivers installed, and we merely accessed an existing network printer wherever it's connected using a Windows driver. So I'll cancel out of that page, and at this point, I can show a little bit more detail in the SAP user interface. Basically, any real-time print status in SAP can be read through the use of printer job language compatible printers, and the PJL allows you to send detailed feedback back into the SAP system. So I'm just going to type in another SAP transaction here. I'm going to look at all the spool requests, and I can see that I have this one right here. This is the most recent one. You can see that that spool number matches up. I can double-click on the status, double-click again, and at this point I can dive a little bit deeper into events and see basically a play-by-play of how that print request was handled. The print request was created. It gets into some formatting. It waits in the spool system. And then we can see that we have printed out. It was a new print job added to the print queue AR department, mass print Ricoh. It looks as though 69 of 69 pages were printed on this printer. So it's just a bit more detailed information directly in that SAP user interface that allows you to know that the job is done. Another great feature of the print manager would be to go back to the print manager here, go to a configuration, and if I really needed to, I can edit this print queue and say I wanted to print it to a different printer. I can simply choose the printer that I want from a list of all the print servers and available printers to me. So we'll see as this loads up that I could essentially change this output to be a different printer as long as this printer's been named on a different print server. So you can see we have some different available options to us. So it really does allow you to kind of switch where your destination is without anything too difficult happening in the SAP on the SAP side. So I'm going to cancel that. I can again stay in this print manager piece, and from here I'm going to again jump into editing of the print queue and show you that there's different filter rules that are determining how and where each printer is going to handle the various spool requests. So as you can see, for that mass print printer, we have a job page count of greater than 3, and so that is why we had a spool file that was 69 pages be processed with that printer of the mass print. If I went back into SAP at this point and I created a new print, this time I'm just going to go through and print one simple page, and I will just go to here, go to print preview. Basically what I had done there was just go to a individual vendor. I'm going to print preview this, make sure it's going to the output device that I want it to. It looks like it's only one page. And once I hit print here, I can go back into my print manager, look at the activity. It looks like we have a small print coming in that's in progress. It is currently printing. And as I refresh, it's finished. Now, if I go back to my configuration, I can show you that on the small print brother print queue, the filter rule for that is that there's a job page count that's less than or equal to 3. So basically, I'm printing from the same system, I'm printing into the same exact output device, and yet the output is going to 2 different printers based on the filter rule that the small printer only handles requests that are 3 pages or less, the large printer handles requests that are 3 pages or more. Another interesting part of this print manager would be to go to this large printer, and I can create a new print ticket. And basically what a print ticket is a set of pre-selected printer options. So at this point we would have access to every single option that each printer has. So if I wanted to edit printing options, you can see here that I can change page orientation, I can change duplexing. There's multiple different options. These are some common printing options that people often like to change. But it gets a little bit even further involved than that, where you can add extended printing options. And if I edit here, basically the standard printing options that you just saw are, major options a printer may have. These detailed ones, if I go to my advanced section here, these are actually the advanced printing options that give a user direct access to a manufacturer's windows to set up printer's options. So these are, the fully advanced, every option that the individual printer itself has, where you can change trays, enable some other features that would be of value to you. Another important note is that there are multiple options of a same printer, may be addressed separately, just basically based on what are the certain spool requirements. So if you have some spool properties that you would like to push out to a printer, you can determine that, and then if the spool file has different options, you can choose to send it to another printer as well. Okay. So like I said, it's just it allows you to easily print to an output device and then handle spools or on an individual basis and put them in the location that you would ultimately like them to end up at. Another thing that I had mentioned earlier, where we have these different print servers, you now have access to the different printers on the print server. You just have to basically create the server. So if I wanted to, I could create a new print server here, and I'm just going to use the machine name of my machine here, which is a Inspiron 1. And once I do that, Inspiron 1, we should see my new print server populate in here. And if I click on my print server, I can see all the printers that my individual machine has access to here in Boston, where we are located. So most of this is done outside of SAP, so the users can share the same printers irrespective of the SAP background job or front-end module. Another important point about the Complejo Print Manager is that it allows users to save bandwidth while supporting multi-sites. So for instance, a spool file will be sent to a printer. It's converted into PCL or PostScript language, and therefore the size of the print file received by the printer expands 5 to 10 times. Therefore, the later you request the conversion, the better off for your broadband. PCL or PostScript is generated on a system, then sent through the network, it's going to be broadband consuming. So what I'm going to show you now is that in the activity for the finished AR department group, we're going to take a look at these last two documents that I pushed through, and then I will show you the output of such, and we can compare the two. So as you can see here, it looks like these last two documents, one was 434 kilobytes, the other 178. However, when you look at the actual output of the two documents that I processed, you'll see that they're far greater than that in size. For instance, that one that was 434 has now jumped in size to what looks like 1.3 megs, and the other document that was 178 kilobytes is now 1.2 megs. So that just goes to show you that you're saving your broadband, or you're saving your bandwidth by the simple fact that you're able to do that PCL conversion later on in the process of printing. So PCL, or PostScript spoof conversion, is handled at the Windows Print Manager level, not in the SAP system. So one of the last things that I'm going to show is that we have real-time detailed page print status sent back to the SAP user. So if I wanted to, for instance, use this printer directly, I could just go to the printer and pause printing, and that's that mass print one that you saw earlier. I could just go back and again do my purchase order print, but at this point there should be an issue because this printer is not going to be ready to be printing or printed with. So if I just went to go print, again enter my output device that I want to print to, we're going to send that spool, and now I'll go back to my print manager. I'll look at the processes just to make sure that that print's going through. And then essentially what should happen, or what will happen, is that we will get an error message because this printer will be, or this document will be blocked from printing due to the fact that the printer itself is paused and wouldn't be able to print anything at this point. So we'll just wait for that to continue processing. And we will then go into the print manager just to check out the activity. And then once we're in that print manager and see that the activity, or what activity is occurring, that document just finished processing, go into the print manager. Now we'll check at the in progress file, and we'll see that this is blocked. So that's what we expected to see, as I said. So now if I went back into SAP and say, I'm just assuming that that document printed, so I'm going to go back and do something else in SAP, you'll see that the status information for the output request is that it is reported that there's a problem. So we have a problem on the printer. Then what I can do is, again, go back to my SP01, check out the individual spool requests. I can see that there's a problem here, so I would double-click. Again, I'm going to view the events. And it looks like the job is blocked because there's an error on the printer. So this happens real time, and if you're in the SAP user interface, you can understand that that document that you just expected to be printed has not been printed, and you can realize why that is just based on the PGAL giving back that giving back the feedback to the SAP system so that you can handle that directly. Another great option that you have with the print manager is to say, this would be done on a user level if you're in the SAP system. However, if you're an SAP administrator, there is a web-based interface that you can interact with to take a look at these jobs directly. So again, this is basically the same type of interface for the. Oh, let me just log in here. Check M. So what you'll see here is something that administrators might be interested in. You can have a web-based interface that kind of centralizes this print management. You see the Print Manager tab. All you have to do is click on the tab, and now you're back in what looks like a very similar interface to the Print Manager itself. So again, here's the CPM. The last process was blocked. We're going to show the activity details, and you can actually go in here just based off of a web address and see what happened, why it was blocked. Click on it and go into a little bit more detail in terms of why these things were getting blocked. And that, for the most part, is what the nitty-gritty of the Complejo Print Manager. I do have a PowerPoint here that kind of details just how these Complejo Print Manager can be secured and centralized. As you can see, all SAP GUI or PDF output are accessed through that protocol I talked about. The spool files contain the properties, the output's converted locally, and then you have the detailed and real-time print status sent back into the SAP. Basically, you can have, you can output your printing to your hard specifications with the Complejo Print Manager. And that, for the most part, is what the Print Manager is all about. So if I go now, I'm going to show you the Complejo layout piece, and shortly after that, I'll show you the Complejo supervisor piece. So here's Complejo layout. Let me just pop that up. It appears I'm having some technical difficulties with that, and since we're already at 1:30, it doesn't seem like we'll be going over the Complejo layout and Explorer pieces. So at this point, I guess I'm going to turn it over to Frank, and if any of you have any questions basically on that Print Manager, then we can address them at this point.